Hello there, my name is Anton Scarvelas. In this video, I'm going to show you what the new version of the Advanced Sculpting add-on for Blender can do. As a little summary, Advanced Sculpting allows you to organize your brushes in categories, import all textures from a folder for quick access while sculpting, and also a brand new custom UI for sculpting that is non-intrusive but at the same time allows you to quickly change settings and brushes. In the new version of the add-on, version 1.2, the brush category system has changed and now it allows you to have brushes in multiple categories, and also it allows you to quickly import brush categories from other blend files and have them in your project for as long as necessary. Manually importing brushes or saving them all in the startup file is no longer necessary. With that said, let's get started. Okay, first of all, let's open up Blender and then open a project with sculpting brushes. I have downloaded some very nice rock brushes from BlendSwap and I want to organize them using my add-on. I'll add a link in the description if you want to check them out. I suggest you download them and leave a thanks to the creator, as they're really good. Anyway, let's open it up and in Sculpt mode go to Advanced Sculpting in the Tools tab, and then you'll see a panel called Brush Categories. Just click on this little button to add a new one. Let's name it Rocks, which makes sense. And then let's add all the brushes we want. Now you can do this in two ways. One is just click this button here to add the currently selected brush. If you click it again, it won't work. Conveniently enough, you don't want to have the same brushes multiple times in a brush category. Or you can add all brushes with the same name sample using the button below. Now, if you've used any previous version, you know that the add-on used a different approach for categories that had to do with the name of the brushes. So basically, if you had brushes named like sample, this vertical character, and then name, you could organize them using the sample. So all brushes with a name with the same sample in the name belonged in the same category. As you can see, in this case, I've done that with these brushes already. They all start with Z and then this vertical character. So I can just click here, write Z, click OK, and it will add all of these brushes. Now, let's also say that I like some of them more than the others. So let's create a brush category called Best Rocks and add a few of them at random. This and maybe this and maybe this. Okay, I just select the brush I want and then click on this button here. Very simple. With all this set up, if you go to the top here, you'll see that you have the option to change the brushes that you can select. For now it's all set to all. There's also default for the default Blender brushes, and also all the other brush categories that you have made. For example, rocks here, which are all the rocks, and best rocks, it will only show these 5 rocks. Alright, let's now save this and close Blender. Having set up all our brushes just how we wanted them, let's see how we can easily and quickly use them in all our projects. For this, open up Blender, go to Sculpt mode, try not to change anything, go to Advanced Sculpting in the Tools tab. In there you'll see a panel called Brush Files. Simply click on this top button there and find the blend file with the sculpting brushes you want. In this case, it's this one. Just select it, and as you can see here, the add-on already finds the brush categories you created. But you know what, let's just go back to object mode and save startup file. Now, if you close Blender and then reopening and go to sculpt mode, you'll see that it stays there, and it was a very simple change to the startup file. It didn't load it with all kinds of brushes. And you can just use them very easily still just by importing them using this plus icon. So for example, if I wanted to use the rock brushes, I could just click this, and as you can see, it has added a brush category called rocks. I can also add best rocks, and in the brush categories you'll see both categories made by me. Alright, so here you can see that the add-on has imported all the rocks, and now I can easily use them for my sculpting purposes. Now, the really cool thing is that if I happen to have imported a lot of brushes and worked a long time in my project, and then I just save it, let's just say it's a test.blend, save it, and then close it and reopen Blender and reopen the file. Now what usually happens is that all the brushes that were not saved specifically inside the blend file will disappear. But in this case, the add-on sees that some brush categories were not made in the file but were imported from other files. So it will just re-import all the brushes that I need. So here, if I go to rocks, you'll see all the rocks are still here. I can just easily use them. I can save the file however many times I want, close it, reopen it, it won't matter, it will always load them. And when I no longer need them, I can just delete them. Okay, now let's say you have a few dozen textures that you want to sculpt with, but making separate brushes for them or opening them one by one and then having to search for them in a sea of different textures is cumbersome. If that's the case, just go to the panel called texture folder, select the folder with the textures you want. I happen to have some bullet textures. Note here, they have to be in the same folder, not in subfolders. Click accept and then click on get textures. And as you can see, it will just load all of them and you'll have a separate menu to select just them. Now, onwards to the new custom UI. Basically, it consists of two things, a central widget and a vertical or horizontal panel for quick brush selection. You can have either of them enabled or both of them. Go to panel control, and there you'll see settings for the position of the widget. It can be in any of the four corners for now. Just click on initialize UI, and when you move your cursor to the 3D view, you'll see this appearing. It shows some basic information, and you can select the brush category you want or the brush that you want, like this. Also, you can easily change the sculpting settings using the 6 buttons below. The first is basic settings, like radius, strength, etc., plus some add-ons settings. The second is texture settings, which will go green in case you use a texture, like, for example, which was it? No, here. Also to note, if you happen to use a texture folder, the texture folder option will appear in the basic settings here. Alright. Stroke settings, and then dynamic topology settings. If you left click, it will show the settings, and if you right click, it will enable or disable it. If it's enabled, it goes green. Alright. Curve settings, and finally symmetry and lock settings. Now this will change each color according to the mirror. For example, if you've enabled X symmetry, it will go red in case of Y, green for the Z, blue, and if you've enabled more than one, this orange-ish color. Alright. Now if you go back to the Tools tab, you can enable the horizontal or vertical panel, as you can see here, and you can either make it horizontal or vertical, whatever you prefer. And you can also change its size, which will be the number of rows or columns. It depends on whether it's horizontal or vertical. There are also color settings for the small panel. The small panel is this one, the buttons below it, and the grid. For example, the buttons, you can turn them all like bluish, and the grid is basically the horizontal or vertical panel, but also this. Alright? You can disable the custom UI by clicking on Destroy UI. Also, if you have any problems, glitches, etc., simply destroying and reinitializing it is almost always the only thing you need to do. Sorry for the long video, and thanks for watching. I hope you find this add-on useful. If you have any questions, bug reports, feature requests, whatever, don't hesitate to send me a personal email. Until then, have fun sculpting!